Here is Jeff, the host of the Gridiron.
And welcome to the Gridiron, baby. If you can give this video a thumbs up or maybe share this video, that would be absolutely freaking phenomenal. Thank you. Please get down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way next time I go live or if I put a video out, you'll be notified, and it's free of charge. What do you got to lose? It's totally free of charge. But if you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. You want to help support my channel? Description box below, very top link, takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. Each one has their own little perks to them. So once again, if you want to help support my channel out, it would mean so much to me. And I thank you in advance. And then finally, just another link underneath there somewhere in the description box. Takes you to my Facebook group. We have over 9,700 members in the group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. It is doing simply marvelous, might I add. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing and if I got internet access, I am putting stuff in this group darn near 365. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. Please join it. You will not be dissatisfied. I promise. Well, this happened, obviously, it was last week. I was in St. Martin, so I wasn't anywhere close to the continental United States, so I couldn't put anything out at all, but I was watching. And what usually winds up happening all the time is with the Giants schedule, usually winds up getting leaked out and everything. We knew going in, obviously, we got the toughest schedule. Now, the one thing is that, a lot of times, like, why do we always have such a hard schedule? Good point. Excellent question. Well, one of the things is, when you suck, right, like the Giants do, right, all the teams in front of you, right, have a better record than you. That's why when the Eagles got a tough schedule too, right? Which is, what you want. That's what you want to say. Okay, because they were the number one. They're on top of the mountain, baby. They're the guys who are trying to knock off all the other teams, trying to knock them off. But they have a hard schedule as well too. But what makes the Eagles' schedule a little easier, right? Strength of schedule is because they're playing a crappy team like the Giants. See, how it works. When you're on the bottom, all the teams on top of you are, that you got to play or have a better record than you. So your strength is, right? So what makes the Eagles' strength of schedule and, the Commanders and all that, brings theirs down a little bit is you're playing a crappy team like the Giants. It is what it is, right? All you can do, right, is play the schedule that they put in front of you, right? Now, the Giants did benefit a few years ago when 2022 went to the playoffs and all, we did not have a super duper hard schedule, right? And, we were able to take advantage of that. So, but it is what it is. All you can do, is show up when they tell you to show up, play the team you're supposed to play, and right, may the best team win. So it is what it is. But the Giants, have a hard schedule. Now, you just didn't know when were the Giants playing the Cowboys for the 37th straight Thanksgiving Day game. Well, that's not happening because the Cowboys, I believe they're playing the Chiefs, I think it is, on Thanksgiving. So right there. The Giants don't have too many primetime games. Thank you, which is good. Very, very good. But, it is going to be a tough schedule, right? So we've got 3 primetime games, a couple home games, primetime home games. So we actually kind of, if you want to say, have a chance. We have the hometown crowd, right? So which is good. Let's see. 2 Super Bowl rematches highlight the Giants slate, which begins with back-to-back road contests, which is odd. Usually, way it winds up happening, for the most part, obviously not all the time, right? But usually if you start the first week at home. A lot of times the next week is on the road. Not all the time. Or if you start on the road, your next game is at home. But to play the first two on the road, that's a bit odd. Usually that the first two games you got one at home, one on the road. But it is what it is. We're gonna get a couple games out of the way, right, in a division. Something the Giants, really need to work on, winning those games in the division. Now, we've seen. Okay, we're gonna go over a little bit what happened in the offseason, right? But the Giants, against the Commanders could hold their own, right? Lost a tough one at home, and if we actually had a kicker, we should have won the game in Washington. No doubt about it, right? And, maybe, just maybe, we can beat the Cowboys one time this year. And, who knows? If things go Giants' way, maybe we can beat them twice. But the Cowboys are not, we're not talking Super Bowl with the Cowboys. Not happening, right? They're just getting, to me, anyway, it just seems like they're getting worse every year, which is fine by me. But, so, as I said, you knew it was going to be tough. So the Giants' home opener is set for Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs, right? Let's see, whose three-peat attempt was thwarted, right? So still nobody has won 3 Super Bowls in a row. Of course, the last three-peater was the, which quite possibly the 65 Packers, if they went to the Super Bowl, they had a Super Bowl after the 65 season, quite possibly would have won it. But the last three-peat, and there's only been 2 three-peats, right? The 29, 30, and 31 Packers, 65, 66, 67 Packers. Right? So, but nobody's won 3 straight Super Bowls, though. All right, so the Giants will host the defending Super Bowl champions 3 weeks later on a Thursday night matchup at MetLife Stadium. Under the NFL's schedule rotation, the Giants will face all 4 teams from the NFC North and AFC West. So, those two, the divisions right there are tough. Real tough. You figure you got obviously with the North. The Bears, my goodness, if the Bears actually had a freaking coach last year, I'm sure they could have easily won a few more games. It's a shame. They had the team. I'm not saying it was Super Bowl champions or going to Super Bowl. They were better than their record was. They had some tough losses, but you look at, Green Bay, right, Minnesota and Detroit. So we have to play that division. Then of course you got to play the AFC West, right? Peyton's got Sean Payton has the Broncos looking good. The Chargers, of course, with Harbaugh, right? And then of course, the Chiefs. They'll be up there once again. Now, will they go back to the Super Bowl again? We'll have to wait and see. But then you got the Raiders, but we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Then they play the same place finishers from the NFC South, which is the Saints. And then this is one of the things I can't stand, because it's like, we're going to wind up playing against the 49ers. So, I'm not sure, the 49ers could easily be a very, very good team this year. They had some problems. Like I said, they got some injuries, right? But they're a very good team. So, but we have to face off against them. Then we're going to play the Patriots, okay? This is in addition to the annual home-and-home series with their 3 divisional opponents. This year, the NFC teams will play 9 road games and 8 at home, right? So, here we go. So we have the obviously the preseason games. So this year, the Giants always play the Jets, and they always usually wind up playing the Patriots. But this year, we're playing the Bills. Interesting, very, very interesting. So we're playing at the Bills, Saturday. So the first game is Saturday, August 9th. Then we're playing home against the Jets, right? And then we're finishing up home against the Patriots on Thursday. So the first two preseason games, Saturday, August 9th, Saturday, August 16th, and then we're finishing up 5 days later on Thursday, August 21st. Very cool. And of course, they said that, let's see, what do we got? Looks like we have, as should be when you're a crappy team, you play a lot of 1:00 games, which was Bill Parcells' favorite. He just put me in at 1:00 on Sunday. I'm good. But, when you wind up being, the Super Bowl champions, and you're very, very good. I'm talking about Parcells, the Giants back then. But when you're a very good team and you're from New York and you got, like Lawrence Taylor, right? Teams want to see you, right? But when you're a crappy team like the Giants, you get a lot of 1:00 games, and we got a lot of 1:00 games. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7. Hold on. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of our. Wait, stop. Stop. 11 of our first, what would it be? 15 games, because the last two are to be determined. Let's see, the week 17 at the Raiders and the last game of the season home against the Cowboys is to be determined what time it winds up being. But we got a lot of 1:00 games. We got, let's see, what do we got? The week 3 Sunday night game at 8:20. The week 6 game Thursday night, 8:15. Then we got the game against the Broncos. Obviously, Russell Wilson's going to go play against the team. Stop. But obviously, the Broncos. He was playing for the Broncos for basically had a cup of coffee. But that's a 4:00 game, and all the other games, right? We got the Patriots. The Patriots, the Monday night game. So we got a Sunday night game, a Thursday night game, and a Monday night game. I don't know why, who. I mean, I don't know who picked this one. Monday night game, the Giants at the Patriots. I mean, are you serious? I mean, might quite possibly easily wind up being a very good game. Could be, very exciting, but I mean, it's like the Giants and the Patriots, two of the worst teams in football for Monday Night Football. Yeah, wow. So we got the 3 primetime games and the 1 game out in Denver. Those are the only 4 games out of the first 15 that aren't 1:00. So we got a 4:00 Sunday. We got a Sunday night, a Monday night, and a Thursday night. And everything else is at 1:00, so which is fine. And they said then the last 2 games would be determined, the Raider game and the Cowboys. But the Commanders game. At Dallas. Hopefully one of these we can beat the Cowboys. It'll be, those things like that are measuring sticks. You have to beat teams in your division. You have to start beating. The Cowboys. Somewhere along the line, we got to start beating them. Cowboys. Somewhere along the line, they're not a very good team, But you got the Chiefs and you got the Chargers at the Saints. A winnable game. Not saying we're going to. We're going to be talking a little bit more about the Saints in a little bit here. Then we got the Eagles. Then we got to go play out at Denver. Then we got the Eagles. So we got the Eagles 2 times in 3 weeks. At least we're not finishing the season with them. But week 6 and 8, we're playing the Eagles. Let's see. Then we have the 49ers at home. And obviously the 49ers, with their coach Shanahan and everything, and Purdy, the one of the was just got a new deal. So he's a happy man. I think he's making like $53 million a season or something like that. So I'm sure if they can stay healthy, right, they'll be a much improved team from last season. Then we're playing the Bears, okay, a winnable game. But then we got the Packers, got the Lions. Then we got the Patriots, another winnable game. Then we have the Commanders and the Vikings at home. 3 of our final 4 games are at home, though. We only got 8 home games, but 3 of the final 4 games are at home. Week 15, we're home against the Commanders. Then home against the Vikings. Then we play the Raiders, and then we come home and play the Cowboys. So now at least things get switched up a little bit anyway, because, obviously the past couple seasons, right, we finished against the Eagles. Well, this year you're going to have the I'm not sure how they're looking at it. Like maybe the bottom 2 teams will be facing off against one another. Right? They figure the Cowboys and the Giants would be the 2 bottom teams. Then you have maybe the Commanders and the Eagles. Maybe that game could be for the division title, or maybe a wild card, implications on it, or playoff implications on it, or something like that. But at least we're not playing the Super Bowl champions. We play them 2 times in 3 weeks, and by week, was it 8 or 8? What are we playing? By week 8, we don't have to see the Eagles ever again for the rest of the season. Thank goodness. Unless somehow we wind up making the playoffs, but that's putting the cart before the horse. But we have 9. We don't have a lot of primetime games, which is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Because that's the kiss of death for the Giants. But we got 9 road games, 8 at home, but a lot of tough games. And the tough things with the games with the Cowboys. They're not a phenomenal team, but they just always seem to beat us. MetLife Stadium is basically a home away from home for the Cowboys, right? So a lot of tough games, playing a couple of tough divisions, and then we're going against the last place teams, and somehow the 49ers wind up in last place in the division. We got to go up against them. So we have tough, especially the home games. The home games, it's like, you look at it, it's like, how many games are we going to win? We didn't win. We had a horrible home record last season. It's going to be probably pretty bad this season too. But once again, all you can do is play the games they tell you, show up at the time they tell you, and just let the best team win. But so at least we got the Giants, their schedule, right? So at least we know. And I said, but the one nice thing, right, is that we don't have a lot of primetime games, just 3. That's good. Good news for us Giants. All right, now what we got here, right? 3 veterans like El Nacho here, right, that could lose their jobs to a draft pick. Quite possibly. Now, with Nacho, right, not only lose his job, but, we got a lot of defensive linemen. Brought a lot of defensive linemen in, right? If we were to now, and we're also, I think, as of right now, because all the rookies have not signed their contracts, we're like $9 million under, we need to clear up $9 million in cap space just to break even, right? So we need to do some things like possibly letting some veterans go to free up some cap space, like Nacho, but also Graham Gano. So there's a few guys here, right? But now, as I said, but Nacho here could just wind up losing his starting role, right? With the draft over, some Giant veteran roster spots and roles on the team could be in jeopardy. And I said, I love, Nacho. I love his attitude. and all that stuff and everything. It's just, he's been rather disappointing. You knew you were not going to get much out of the pass, pass rush from him. But you were kind of hoping that he'd be a little more dominant as far as in the run defense, and that just does not happen. But I do believe this is his final season with the Giants, regardless. So the Giants' offseason roster building phase is officially over, and all that's left is to see how the roster shapes up through the end of training camp in advance of the 2025 season. After a season limited by a ton of inexperience in the depth chart, among other reasons, the Giants' front office wanted to move towards adding veteran talent to balance things out and boost the development of certain young players who held big roles last year. However, they've also established a situation where a few rookies in their latest class could challenge incumbents for key roles across the organization. The team's draft choices like Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart could be pieces that immediately impact both sides of the ball this season, which could spell an end to some players who have made their home in East Rutherford. From discounting new starters to morphing out the rest of the backups at each position, the summer ahead is shaping up to be one where the Giants have to make some hard decisions regarding which players will give them the best chance of winning more football games and ultimately saving the regime for more than just 1 year. Perhaps the answers are hidden within the skill sets of incoming rookies more than the previous resumes of the veterans welcoming them to New York. Either way, these three Giant players are among a few who need to be followed throughout camp to see if they remain a part of the franchise for the upcoming season. Now, of course, the first one is Nacho, Mr. Raheem Nunez Roches, or Nacho. So we got throughout the 2025 season, one of the most significant weaknesses indicated on the Giants roster was a lack of a true number 2 gap stuffer to work alongside All-Pro Dexter Lawrence. His teammate Nacho was the closest attempt the team made to find that person in their ranks. But unfortunately, Nunez Roches didn't live up to the part effectively enough. The 10-year veteran finished first among the defensive line positions in total tackles with 53. But he was barely impactful in creating havoc in the backfield with just 2 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. Nunez Roches' efforts in slowing down the run weren't much mightier, as he finished 4th on the roster with an overall run grade of 50.2. And that was supposed to be a strong suit. Despite playing in most run snaps for the Giants with 302, he couldn't finish many tackles on his own. He had 38 assists and has posted a missed tackle rate above 7.3 in 3 of his last 4 seasons with under 20 stops. Without Lawrence's presence for the final quarter of the season, the Giants realized they were missing solid depth pieces to back him up. The unit ranked 24th or worse in several rushing metrics. That must change if the Giants want to be more competitive and not get stuck in the long drives. That starts with finding a better number 2 option than Nacho, who will likely compete with rookie defensive and 3rd-round pick Darius Alexander in camp in August. Giants are very excited about the young Toledo prospect who fell into the laps at number 65 and believe that he has what it takes to jump into a starting role right away. Alexander flashes a raw blend of size and strength off the snap and uses both to quickly shed blockers and get into the running lanes to clog up space and swallow the ball carrier. He was among the top 5 defensive tackles in college in key run defense metrics, and his value should have never fallen as far down as it did to the top of the 3rd round. So we got ourselves a nice little steal there. If Nacho doesn't step up this summer and prove he can still dominate the interior like he did in the early years of his career, might spell a drop into the number 3 role, or even worse, a potential roster cut before the roster is finalized. Now, it's going to be interesting to see here, okay? Because there's another guy here who, if we were to let him go, would also save the Giants a little bit of money. Excuse me. And it would be Motor Singletary. Right? Yeah, because now you don't know, exactly what they're thinking about Gray, right? But then again, we got Turbo, right? Right on the coming off the practice squad too. So we'll have to wait and see. But then there's also a plethora of running backs out there too, as well. We can pick up. I'm not sure how high the Giants are exactly on Eric Gray, right? Because he showed that he really can't return kicks very well. But if the Giants were to release Motor Singletary, they would save themselves a little bit of money, right? Now, that would be also something, which may not be a bad idea. Maybe next season in the draft, the Giants pick up maybe another running back, right? That would have 3 young studs, right? You don't need an older veteran in there or nothing like that. Although having an older veteran in there, sharing some experience and knowledge is never a bad thing, right? But, I mean, when you're getting young running backs in, the 4th round, 5th round, right? They got a lot of tread left on the tire. They're cheap. They're young. They're healthy, right? And once again, next year, pick up another running back in the 4th or 5th round or whatever, right? That way you can maybe get rid of Gray, have Singletary around no more. You have 3 young studs, right? So the second guy who is, has to watch his P's and Q's in camp, right, would be Mr. Devin Singletary. While it's easy to say that the Giants got a steal regarding the 2024 5th-round pick, Tyrone Tracy Jr., the same praise could be granted for his veteran rushing mate in Devin Singletary in the first season in blue. Giants are bringing in rookie Kyle Scatterboo after they poached him on the 4th round of April's draft. Scatterboo is creating instant excitement within the Giants fan base, who want to see him earn many handoffs after an impressive final college season with the Sun Devils. Kyle was electric as a small but hard-nosed downfield runner who powered Arizona State to a spot in the college football playoff. He posted the second highest rushing line of 1,711 yards, 5.8 yards a carry, and 21 touchdowns, while netting over 4 yards after contact to barrel his way through the defenders. Now, so you got to give him a lot of credit also, too, is because, he doesn't have that breakaway speed. It's not like he gets in the open and he's going to take it all the way. A lot of times he winds up getting caught. But a lot of times he gets caught, but that doesn't mean he's always going to get brought down either. Meanwhile, Singletary was nearly irrelevant in the Giants' rushing attack with only 437 yards and 4 touchdowns on 113 carries in 15 games. That effort wasn't what Shane and Dable bargained for when they signed the veteran they knew from their Buffalo days to replace the massive void left by Saquon's. But, I mean, it's, they were a little bummed out or whatever about his production, but once again, do we have the greatest offensive line in the world? No. If Motor Singletary was behind like Saquon was behind the Eagles' offensive line, his production would have been better. Take Saquon last year and put him behind the Giants' offensive line, and would he have gotten 2,000 yards rushing? Absolutely not. Right? No. It's likely that Scatterboo and Singletary will battle in training camp to earn the right to work alongside Tracy, who is looking for another breakout campaign after a 1,000-plus scrimmage yard debut that finished in the top 3 among rookies last season. Suppose Scatterboo impresses the coaching staff during that period. In that case, he is bound to form one half of the Thunder and Lightning. Yes. Now, let's not forget, okay, the one thing that we had when we had Ron Dane and Tiki Barber, okay? The one thing I hated about that was like when we had Tiki Barber on the field, Tiki Barber's in the backfield, and it's like, okay, Tiki's out there. Cool. Are we going to run or are we going to pass? I guess we'll wait and see. We'll wait for them to snap the ball, and we'll see if they're going to run a pass. Ron Dane runs on the field. Oh, yep, here comes Ron Dane. Guess they're going to run the ball. You know what I mean? But with Tyrone Tracy Jr. and Cam, right? It's like having, I'm not having two tikis out there, but you got two guys out there that can run the ball and catch the ball. There's nothing worse than bringing a guy off the sideline. Oh, okay, here comes Ron Dane. Well, it's a run play. Or if it's not a run play, don't even worry about Dane. He was never very effective out of the backfield, catching passes and stuff. Not like Tiki. You know what I mean? But I said with Tracy and Graham, right? You got whoever's in the backfield there. It's like, I don't know. Is it going to be a run? Is it going to be a pay? So, and we saw. Scatterbo. Man, in that playoff game against the Texas. He ran, he passed, he threw for a touchdown pass. He caught. I can't remember. It was like a 50-yarder down the sideline. The dude from Texas basically ripped his head off, grabbed his face mask and almost pulled his head off just to tackle him. So he can catch passes, he can throw passes, and he can run the football. Same thing as we've seen with Tracy. Tracy can run the ball, and he can, and obviously, since he was a former wide receiver, he can catch the ball too. So that, that's huge. That's huge. It's not like, Cam Scatterboo's in the game. Well, okay, it's going to be a run play. Nope. But what you do want these guys, obviously, to do too is be able to pick up the blitz. That's huge. You don't want them being a liability in the backfield, so. Let's see. Well, Scatterboo does the heavy work in the trenches, and Tracy takes control on the outside zone runs and passing plays using his better speed and shiftiness in the open space. Even Scatterboo is confident he can contribute in any area asked of him, and that will motivate him to win the position battle with anyone who stands in his way, Singletary included. Singletary must match the energy and dedication he brings to training camp if he wants to remain in the running back mix. The Giants choose Scatterbo to be, one of the top two guys. It's possible Singletary could be kept around for depth purposes and certain short yardage situations where his skill set holds better value. The Giants don't seem sold on Eric Gray, who has struggled in his limited reps, and Dante Turbo Miller is still incredibly raw for an undrafted player, but he's fast. One thing he can't preach, speed. We're just going to practice speed, so we'll just you'll get fit now. Either, if you're like Turbo, right, that's just God gifted, right? So the Giants are deploying a committee of backs on the ground, but the ones that will take them out of the league's basement will get a bulk of the snaps. Singletary posted over 775 yards in each of his first 5 pro seasons. Needs to see if he can up the ante from a lackluster debut in New York. Then, of course, the last one, right, of course, is Evan Neal. Right. The story of the Giants tackle turned guard Evan Neal has been rehashed plenty throughout the offseason. Still, he is arguably the number one incumbent player whose future is on the ropes as the team prepares for the 2025 season. Well, the thing is that, can't really say they're going to let him go. I would be shocked because he's got guaranteed money. That's just like taking money and just flushing it down the toilet. And to let him go, without seeing if he can play guard would be just straight up crazy, stone cold crazy. I'll tell you. So, and so with our draft pick, right, possibly stepping in and taking some snaps away from Neal, or maybe replacing Neal, whatever, right? That's a possibility. But Neal will be on the team for this year. There's no doubt about that. But Neal, the Giants' number 7 pick back in 2022, is facing crossroads if he wants to convince the franchise to retain him beyond the 2025 season after declining his 5th-year option. He must embrace a shift to the guard position and learn it well enough to land a backup role on the offensive line. Neal's benefits in his history of playing guard during college at Alabama. But it's not always as easy transition once you get to the professional level. Neal finally found his niche in the run blocking game late in the season, scoring a career high 80.6 in the run blocking. And I believe it was zone run blocking. He had a 90. He graded out at a 90. But he still allowed 98 total pressures and had been penalized 18 times in 3 seasons. If Neal isn't as welcoming of the change in his position or doesn't show promise as some of the Giants have another rookie in Marcus and Bo waiting in the wings to earn his opportunity. And Bo, a versatile lineman at Purdue, can play both guard and tackle and was pretty proficient at both despite his lack of sheer size and strength. As the saying goes, hard work and, in Bo's case, confidence beat talent. And the Giants found a great value in their 5th-round pick to let him compete with the veterans in camp. He eventually wants to contribute to any position along the front lines, and that characteristic will bode well for him if he can master it. Either way, Neal has been unimpressive for a former first-round prospect the Giants thought would become one of the league's up-and-coming protectors. After a 49.6 graded pass blocking year, the 96.7 blocking efficiency and under 500 snaps, Neal is staring into the barrel of his tenure of the Giants offensive line and needs to take whatever opportunity he has to salvage it. Giants should hope that if he does, and they know he could use all the reinforcements for one of the most injury-prone position groups in recent seasons. Now, the one thing is, of course, is that, if the Giants were to let him go after this season, that does not, by any stretch of the imagination, obviously his tenure in the NFL is over. Absolutely not. As we've seen time and time again, Giants, either whatever, letting offensive linemen go, not re-signing them or whatever, go to other teams and do very, very well. So I can almost guarantee that if Neal, was let go after this season, right, the Giants don't, he's going to want, he's going to have a contract, right? Or the Giants going to, does he do enough this season to warrant a contract from the Giants? But I said, if the Giants, don't re-sign him, pick number 7, right, in the NFL draft is going to warrant some attention. And there's a lot of good offensive line coaches, a lot of good offensive linemen, blah, 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 all that stuff that will welcome him with open arms. And I'm sure he'll find his niche with another team. And they'll probably do pretty good, too. Right? So once again, Giants, time and time again, have let offensive linemen like Matt Parrott. He he signed on with the Broncos last season, and he played well enough. I wasn't them saying he was a Hall of Famer or nothing like that, but he played well enough with the Broncos last season, that they signed him to I believe it was an additional 2-year contract. Giants didn't want him, didn't keep him around. I couldn't get the best out of him while he went someplace else, and ta-da! Right, another team got the best out of him. So if the Giants can't find something for Neal or can't get the best out of him, there will be another team out there that'll get better production out of him than the Giants do. I could straight up almost guarantee. Now, the Giants, because all the excitement we got with Dart, right? We got Tommy Chicken Cutler Parmesan. So we got 4 quarterbacks. The thing is that you put one of these quarterbacks on the practice squad. Well, if we're going to have 4, right? If we're going to have these 4, right, with Wilson, Winston, Dart, and of course Tommy Chicken Cutler Parmesan, you put one of them on the practice squad. Sooner or later, they're going to get taken. Now with Tommy Chicken Cutler Parmesan, you put him on the practice squad because he'd be the one on the practice squad. Good chance sooner or later somebody's going to pick him up. because of what he's done in the past. He's won football games, right? He's shown that he can win in the NFL, especially with a crappy team. So somebody will pick him up. But, what you got to think, right, is, how's Dart doing, right? Do we want to have him behind Wilson and Winston and then Dart if he's showing some promise? I'm not saying shove him in there day one and let's go win some football. I'm not saying that, no. But, I mean, if he's showing some promise, do we want him behind Wilson and Winston? Could we let one of those guys go? Right. Well, the Browns are kind of like in the same thing, too. They got so many quarterbacks. But Browns and Giants named best option for potential Saints quarterback trade fit. The Saints quarterback competition is set to begin with Jake Hayner, Spencer Rattler, and Tyler Shuck, at least as of now. Derek Carr's retirement left some questions in the quarterback room, and all reports suggest that Aaron Rodgers is not an option. Let's see. So somebody basically put the Rodgers possibility to bed, saying, no surprise here, but Aaron Rodgers never really was a consideration for the Saints in the wake of the Derek Carr retirement. At their current stages, they don't make sense for him, and he doesn't make sense for them either. So where does this leave the Saints? Some trade options for the Saints in what they call as their plan B, and the Cleveland Browns and the Giants are as trade partners that could emerge. I mean, really, do the Giants need Wilson, Winston, and Dart? If things don't go well, right? If things start going, the wheels start falling off the bus, right? When will it be time maybe to put Dart in there? Because he's hopefully the heir apparent, hopefully he'll be the quarterback of the future and all. Do we want him sitting on the sideline the whole season? I mean, if we have Wilson, take Wilson out, you put Winston in there, right? Or if it winds up being a lost season for the Giants, do we want to put Dart in there again to get some valuable reps? Valuable reps. So Winston signed with the Giants, although the Giants also brought in Wilson and drafted Jackson Dart in the first round. So Winston could be made expendable. The Browns quarterback situation is widely discussed after they drafted Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. So one of either Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett could be trade options for the Saints. I mean, they drafted two quarterbacks in the draft. And then they got Pickett and Flacco. So the question is, does Kellen Moore prefer one of Flacco, Winston in a weird Saints reunion, or Pickett instead of one of the younger options? Now, the thing is obviously with Jameson Winston, right? He spent 4 seasons with Nolans. Okay. But he was never really 2021. He started 7 games for him. But in his 4 seasons with New Orleans, he only started 10 games. He was 6-4. Not too bad. But he never threw more than 161 passes. His first season with the Saints, he played in 4 games to 11 passes. 2021 with the Saints, he threw 161 passes. 2022 with the Saints, he threw 115 passes. And 2023 threw 47. So, what's that? What, 200, 300? He's like 300, say somewhere around. He threw 320 passes in 4 seasons with the Saints. So he averaged what? About 80 passes a season he threw for them. So he was never a major contributor for the Saints. The one year, as I said, he did have 7 starts and he did go 5-2. But, once again, he started, was his first 5 seasons with Tampa Bay, and then he went to New Orleans. So, he's familiar with New Orleans, not so much the coaching staff. That was the change of the guards there, but he is familiar with the Saints. So, I mean that is a possibility. You know, possibility. As I said, I don't know if if things start going. You start with Russell Wilson. If things start going south, yeah, is say whatever. Say we're 3-7, right? You put Winston in there. Is that going to make any? Are we going to go from 3-7 to making the play? You know what I mean? To what 9-8? We're going to go from 3-7 to 9-8 with the hard schedule we have. If you bench Wilson and you put Winston in there. Or would it be beneficial for the Giants, right? If we were 3-7, right, and you put Dart in there, if he's the quarterback of the future, right? So do you really need a Winston? Yeah. If we didn't draft a quarterback, or if we took one like in the 5th round, one of those guys like Gabriel or something like one of those guys later on who maybe weren't going to be maybe viewed as the quarterback of the future, well, then I could see Winston start Wilson and maybe have Winston in there, and if you had Tommy Chicken Cutler Parmesan as your 3rd-string quarterback. But we have drafted, hopefully what we think is the quarterback of the future, the quarterback that's going to lead the Giants, right, going forward, right? So if you have to get the guy in there to take some snaps, go for it. So, quite possibly. Right. If the Saints, come a calling, which maybe they have, but we'll have to wait and see. But to let Winston go, I don't think wouldn't be that bad of an idea. I'd hate to see it because I'd be excited to see Winston on the field. Yeah. Now, are we going to win a Super Bowl with Jameis Winston? No. But what I do like with Winston is that he can move the ball. He can throw touchdown passes. He'll gain you some yards. He'll pass you in some games, but he'll also pass you out of some games, though, too. But at least it'll be exciting, right? All right. Now, Cam, get some love, right? Mr. Scatterboo's getting some love from ESPN, which is nice, because, Giants don't always get a lot of love. Rightfully so. When you only win 3 games, when you're 3-14, you don't necessarily get a lot of love, right? But ESPN, some solid numbers from Cam. Now let's not forget, right? We're not asking him to step in. Well, he's running back number 1. He's going to get 80% of the carries. No, we'll have to wait and see. Now, you don't know. Let's not hope not. But if something would happen to Tracy, say he gets injured or something, well, maybe Cam winds up being running back number 1. Maybe he winds up getting a lion's share of the carries. We'll have to wait and see. But ESPN, I think if I remember correctly, has him at about 900 yards once again projected, right? But not too shabby, right? So ESPN projects solid production from Cam Scatterboo in 2025. Giants felt that they had fallen into some luck when Arizona State running back Cam Scatterboo was available to them in the 4th round. Scatterboo garnered national attention as a senior in 2024, rushing for an ASU record 1,711 yards to go along with 605 receiving yards and 24 combined touchdowns. So we got over 2,300 yards. But as I said, I'm not saying he's Jerry Rice. I'm not saying, but he can contribute in the running game. In the passing game and the running game too. Obviously, he became the first Sun Devils player to eclipse 2,000 yards from scrimmage. He finished 2nd in the FBS in rushing and finished 5th in the Heisman voting. Very effective. Very, very, very good. Now, see, the things like with him and Genty, right, is that Genty can take it all the way. you know, Scatterbo, he doesn't quite have that breakaway speed. Had he had that breakaway speed, right, he wouldn't have lasted to the fourth round. That's for darn sure. One of our favorite players in the draft, just the way he plays, the mentality he plays with, the toughness, the competitiveness, the grit. General Manager Joe Shane said after drafting Cam. Good hands out of the backfield as well. Now he does need to show that he can pick up the blitz and, pass protect. That's huge because you're a huge liability if you can't pass protect. But he's just a darn good football player, so we were excited to get him. And, to be honest with you, the fan base is pretty excited too. Obviously, that doesn't mean that he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher every year, not like that. But, the fan base seems very, very excited to have him. But where does Scatterbo fit in? Currently, the Giants' backfield consists of Tyrone Tracy Jr., Devin Singletary, Eric Wright, and Dante Turbo Miller. And fellow rookie Rashawn Baker, too. Don't forget about him. Given Cam's style of play and obvious value, it's hard to imagine he doesn't see significant snaps as a rookie. However, it will likely come as part of a committee, which is precisely what ESPN analyst Mike Clay anticipates. That makes all the sense in the world to me. Yeah, absolutely. He's one of the oldest running backs in the class at 23. But that's not enough to offset his elite efficiency during 2 seasons at Arizona State. Scatterbo's 110 forced missed tackles were second to Genti in the FBS last season, and his 15% target share and 11.1 yards per target were the draft class's best in the pass game. Scatterbo is not super fast, which obviously, what I said is that, if he was faster, there's no way he was going to the fourth round. He probably would have been a second-round pick. Scatterbo is not super, but he's 5'11", 200, but he's not real tall either, but 215 pounds is very solid. Now, you start putting some meat on him, too. You get him up around 220, 225. Whew. He's going to be strong and very tough to bring down. His 3-down skill set supplies him with a solid long-term outlook. However, his short-term numbers will likely be limited because of Tyrone Tracy Jr. What is Clay's ideal of limited production in the grand scheme of things? Not all that, which is not all that limited. So what they have here for him, okay, is he gets 160 carries, which is it's almost 10 carries a game, which would be pretty darn impressive, right? 691 yards. What we got? What is that? 1632. So a little over 4 yards a carry, right? So 1632, 64, and 5. So I don't know. What is that? 4.3 yards a carry, somewhere around there. Not too shabby. 4 rushing touchdowns, 29 receptions, 213 yards, and another touchdown. So basically, ESPN just predicts he'll have a total of 5 touchdowns, and he'll have over 900 yards combined. As well, last year, remember, Tracy had over 1,000 yards combined. But the one thing that's going to bring, Cam, his numbers down a little bit is that, that's where Tracy stepped into the starting role last year. I'm not sure if Cam's, hey, anything's possible. You don't know. But you don't know if Cam is going to step into the starting role, right? Like Tracy did last season. If he steps into the starting role, obviously he'll get more carries and he'll have a chance at just what ESPN is predicting. That's all. To get 1,000 yards. Once again, very, very impressive. A 904-yard, 5-touchdown season is what amounts to a backup role would be a significant boost for the Giants. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, a backup running back at 691 yards rushing, that wouldn't be too bad at all. I mean, because you figure, right, I'm just saying, if we keep Motor Singletary, Right? If we get almost 700 yards rushing from Cam, and we got Tyrone Tracy Jr., if he's our leading running back and he gets like whatever, 900 yards. And then if you have Motor Singletary, right, if he makes the team and all that stuff, maybe he gets a few hundred yards rushing. No, that wouldn't be too bad at all. Let's see. So a 904-yard season, in that scenario, you have to assume Tracy remains healthy and eclipses the 1,000-yard mark, giving the team 2,000-yard plus production from their top two backs, which would be very impressive. Very, very impressive. So you can't argue about that one bit. One bit. That would not be bad at all, right? Because obviously it's not the way it used to be. We have like a halfback and a fullback in there. We got two guys in the backfield all the time. It's running back by committee, right? Now, of course, obviously a lot of it, it's the theory of relativity. Everything's relative. If you can keep the ball, right, you move the ball up and down the field, everybody gets more rushes. Everybody gets more pass receptions. The wide receivers, they get more targets, more receptions, more yards. We score more touchdowns. But the longer you're on the field, the more chances you have of actually running the ball. Now, when the Giants are scoring 15 points a game, obviously we're not on the field, that much. So obviously everybody's production comes down. But if we can actually get a season where we score some points and move the ball, gain some yards, everybody's numbers go up. So, but of course, according to ESPN, they get almost 700 yards rushing from Cam. Would be pretty darn impressive. Especially because he's not the number one guy. Not bad at all. I'm very excited to see them run. Very, very excited. See him. He'll be breaking some tackles. Oh, yeah. Now, the Giants were given a modest offseason grade. Now, I gotta disagree a little bit with this one. But once again, it's the Giants. Giants don't get a lot of love, and understandable so. When you are, when you're 3-14, you got, I mean, how much love can you really expect? But this offseason, I think they did a little bit better than this article is giving them credit for. From I think it's Yahoo? Yeah, Yahoo Sports. Giants were given a modest 2025 offseason grade by PFF. I think they did a little bit better than what they did. But Giants entered the offseason with a specific goal in mind: take swings and fix the quarterback room. General Manager Joe Shane did exactly that, exploring trade for Matthew Stafford and others, calling the Titans for the number one overall pick and meeting with free agent Aaron Rodgers. Right? It doesn't always work out, but he took a chance. Right? In the end, the Giants signed a pair of veteran quarterbacks, Wilson and Winston, before trading back into the first round to get Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. They also re-signed Tommy Chicken Cutlet Parmesan. Was it the precise outcome Shane and head coach Brian Dable had hoped for? Well, no one can know for sure, but that seems unlikely given their earlier pursuits. Either way, it was a satisfactory outcome. But that wasn't all the team did this offseason. They also provided a significant boost to their secondary with a pair of veteran signings, adding elite-level talent to the defensive line, beefed up the ground game, and brought in high-character players to fit the locker room. Despite all of that work and on-paper improvements, PFF gave the Giants a grade of a B- for their offseason work. I think I'd have to give them at least a B. I'm not saying that they hit it out of the park, but they didn't have a ton of cap space, right? They brought in two veteran quarterbacks with, once again, we're not paying $50 million a season, $40 million a season for one of these quarterbacks. We brought in three new quarterbacks, quite possibly the quarterback of the future. So, but Giants took swings at quarterback, Geno Smith and Matthew Stafford, and in the trade market, and even called up number 1 overall for Cam Ward. But they were forced to settle for Jackson Dart at the back end of round 1. Defensive backs Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland were great additions via free agency for a defense that earned a 52.2 PFF coverage grade last season. Giants draft was very good overall, earning an A- in PFF's draft grades. So, but the Patriots and the Bears, who will both play the Giants in 2025, were both given A pluses. Once again, this is all this is what they think. Giants had a lot of holes, right? Two of our biggest problems we've had for a while is obviously the offensive line and quarterback. Right? We've had this for a long time, and we still don't even know if it's fixed, right? But we had a lot of holes. We did not necessarily add an offensive weapon. We brought in obviously we drafted Dart. We brought in 2 veterans for the short term. We drafted an offensive line, but we're not sure if the offensive line is fixed. So I can kind of see, but we got Carter, right? We got Alexander, so we got somebody next to Sexy. We brought in Adebo. We brought in Holland, so it makes Banks put him over to cornerback number 2. So our defenses should be improved over last season. If it's not, Bowen's just got to go. Right? He's got to go. So our defense is, really got, and it's young too, very, very young, right? And a lot of the guys will be back from last season, and we still have a lot of guys on for the next couple of years too, right? Because we'll have Carter. Hopefully, we sign McFadden. Hopefully, right? We got a Karake for another couple of seasons. Hopefully, we sign McFadden. We got Carter, obviously, for 4, quite possibly 5. We picked up Kayvon's 5th-year option, so we got him this season. We got him next year. We got Bernsey for a few more years. We got Sexy for a few more years. We got Alexander. The whole secondary. We have, the starters we have for years, Nubin and Holland. We got those guys for 3 more years. We brought in, I think, Adebo for 3 years, right? We got Banks for at least another 2, possibly pick up his 5th-year option, so maybe another 3. We got Phillips for another 3. So we got the defense for, quite a lot of the guys are going to be here for years, unless, of course, you let them go early or what, but we got a very young, solid defense, right? So, but the thing is, like with the Giants, they have so many holes, they couldn't fill everything, once again, that's what PFF thinks. Do I think they got an A for the offseason? No. But the PFF was a B. I'm a B-. I'm sorry. I got to give him at least a B, if not a B+. I'll just try to be fair and honest to give him an A. No, maybe not. But I got to give him at least a B, if not a B+. I think what changed with the draft and with the talent, we did not have a ton. I think the Patriots had a ton of cap space. We did not. So the guys that we brought in, with the amount of cap space we had, I think Shane did a very, very good job. Now, are we fixed? No. Do we still have holes? Sure. Do we still have questions? Yep, absolutely. But I think what Shane did between the draft and free agency, you got to give him at least a B. But time will tell. Yeah. there's still some guys out there. 3 best trade targets for the Giants. Now, the one nice thing about trades, right, is a lot of it is you can obviously go for guys, and you want to trade like Noah Fant there, right? Just spoiler alert. Well, you pick the phone up and say, hey, look, you want to looking to trade, right? Because maybe not this year, but the Giants need to do something with their tight ends. But once again, you got a lot of holes, right? It is what it is. We still need to have some holes, but we definitely need to beef up the tight end, department. Well, I said with Noah Fant, you call, you pick the phone up and you say, hey, okay, we'll give you whatever. We'll give you a 4th round pick if you pick up half his salary. If you don't want to pick up his salary, we'll give you a 5th round pick or whatever. Right? It's like, let's make a deal. Right? But there are some guys out there, right? Well, maybe the Giants can go after. Remember Noah Fant, he was the one. Let's say he had like a 60-yard touchdown pass. I think like 342 Giants had chances, just like trying to like tackle the guy or knock him out of bounds. And I just don't know why we just couldn't do that. But he ran all the way down the sideline for a touchdown. Oh my goodness. All right. But anyway. Okay. So 3 best trade targets to round out the Giants' 2025 roster. 3 players the Giants need to trade for in 2025 offseason to fill out their roster ahead of training camp. So far, the Giants' offseason has gone nearly according to plan. After making multiple splashes in free agency, General Manager Joe Schoen had one of the best drafts of his career in April. That's fair. With the training camps on deck, the Giants roster is nearly complete, with just a few trade targets around the league who can tie up loose ends. Definitely, without question. Now, what I would love to, we could really use, obviously, another weapon, without question. Definitely another weapon. Now, the thing is, I mean, I'd say I like I like the wide receivers we have, but we could use another weapon. Now, the thing is, it would wind up being very costly, of course, to go out and get a wide receiver weapon, or could be costly. But if we don't add to the wide receivers, I would love if we can add quite possibly to the tight end room. Now, if we don't do it this season, we'll do it next season. Right? Let's see. So after not so subtly taking the second half of the 2020-24 season, the Giants were forced to make major changes in the offseason. Shockingly, despite the relatively bare market, Schoen managed to land some of the biggest fish in the sea. Like I said, they landed Holland, Debo, Russell Wilson. Don't forget about Chauncey Golston, too. Don't forget about him. Schoen rode the momentum into the draft. We hauled in 7 more players, led by oh, man, I can't wait to see Abdul Carter, man. Oh, man, I'm so excited to see him. Man. Where we landed Abdul Carter, the highly touted edge rusher, topped the class. But the Giants also traded up for Jackson Dart, their presumed quarterback of the future. Time will tell. Potential late-round gems Marcus and Bo and Cam Scatterboo rounded out an exciting crop of talent that managed to get many skeptical fans back in on the team, back in on the bandwagon, baby. Even with the stellar offseason so far, New York still has a couple of areas to address. A 4-13 team is not fixed by a handful of free agents and a solid rookie class. Shane has a couple of months remaining until training camp begins, giving him time to compile a list of trade targets to complete the Giants roster. So now the first guy they're talking about, okay, is Kobe Durant, a cornerback from the Rams. Now, never hurts to have good cornerback depth. Absolutely not. Never hurts. Giants had easily one of the worst secondaries in 2024, but addressed that dire need in free agency by bringing in Debo and Holland. Debo gives the team a lockdown cornerback for the first time in years, alleviating pressure off former first-round pick Deonte Banks. However, behind the Debo and Banks, New York lacks depth at cornerback. Well, we got Phillips, we got Flott, okay, but we could certainly use some depth. Absolutely. Drew Phillips and Tyler Nubin were the lone bright spots in the team's secondary during 2024. With Phillips locking down the slot and Nubin displaying elite pursuit, both showed their ability to develop into premier players of their respective positions. Holland pairs nicely with Nubin on paper, making outside cornerback the biggest question mark. So, in theory, Debo's inclusion will help Banks, who took a significant step back in his second year. His supposed locker room issues led to a surprising benching in Week 8. After Debo criticized his effort on a missed tackle, ideally, Debo gives Banks the luxury of covering the opposing number 2 wideout instead of the best pass catcher in the league. However, with the Debo below average shadow rate and his recovery from a broken femur, he's still not an automatic solution to New York's issues. The Giants still need more veteran depth at cornerback, making Kobe Durant a viable trade target. Durant started 14 games last season, posted an above-average 63.7 player grade, according to PFF, on 449 coverage snaps. Yet, despite his improvements, he remains buried on the Rams' depth chart. His services are expendable and should be available for a mid to late round pick. Giants want to see improvements in Banks, but he was statistically one of the league's worst cornerbacks in 2024. They need to give themselves insurance on what otherwise it could be potentially an elite defense. Then they talk about Noah Fant from the Seahawks, the tight end. Giants will likely need to see what their offense looks like before making any further offensive judgments. But tight end remains one of the biggest question marks on the roster. Absolutely. New York is slated to begin the year with Theo Johnson, who showed promise as a rookie, but had the season cut short by a foot fracture. Behind Johnson, the Giants have veterans Bellinger, who just seems to be disappearing. Hey. Greg Dulcich and Chris Manhertz on the roster, in addition to the 7th-round rookie Thomas Fidone II. Fidone is the most intriguing of the group, but is much closer to beginning his career on the practice squad than being a day-one contributor. The declining state of the tight end gives Shane options, but his best might be Seattle Seahawks Noah Fant. New York needs a temporary solution more than a permanent one, which is the role Fant serves at this point in his career. Former first-round pick, Fant was once viewed as a potential game changer. However, ahead of his 7th season, the Seahawks are evidently ready to move on. 1 year after taking A.J. Barner in the 4th round, Seattle used its 2025 second-round pick on another tight end. With Fant on the outskirts of the roster, Seattle would gladly field any offers. His asking price will not be high, and Shane could lower it even further with the right offer. Seahawks desperately need interior offensive line help, making one of Aaron Stinney, Greg Van Roten, or John Runyon a valuable addition. Well, I don't think we're giving up John Runyon, but then the last guy they have here would be safety, which we could use some depth at. J.T. Gray of the Saints. Giants made many notable offensive and defensive additions in the offseason thus far, but have not done much to address their special teams issues in 2024. Their special teams issues from 2024. The often overlooked area of the game has been a blind spot on the team for multiple seasons. Well, Shane has brought in a lot of guys who have excelled on special teams. New York does not have to be ultra aggressive in this aspect, but trading for an asset or two over the summer would pay dividends. Perhaps mental fatigue was to blame, but New York was hardly been adept at kickoffs or punt coverage. They ranked in the bottom 10 in kickoff yards and punt return yards allowed in 2024, making them one of the worst special teams units in the league. Giants acquired special teams standouts Chris Board, Ty Summers in free agency, but could you still use one more piece? Consistent special teams aces are harder to find than in the modern NFL, but JT Gray is one of those few remaining. While hardly seeing the field as a safety, Gray recorded 19 special teams tackles in 2024, which is a lot of tackles, which was the third most in the league. With only two players ahead of him on the Washington Commanders, Gray is the best special teams player the Giants can realistically target for a potential trade. Gray will be difficult to pry from the Saints as a special teams captain, but he is not untouchable. Shane could pry on New Orleans' dysfunctional quarterback situation by offering either Jameson Winston or Tommy DeVito. Winston, who played for the Saints from 2020 to 2023, is well accustomed to the organization. Offering a trade of that magnitude would likely give the Giants additional draft capital in return. New York plans to sit Dart behind its veteran quarterbacks in 2024, but potentially trading Winston or DeVito still allows them to do so. The historically durable Wilson is still locked in as a starter, giving Dart the pseudo-red shirt season Dable envisions. So, there's definitely, without question, without question. I mean, the Giants easily need, some depth. I mean, we certainly did not fill out the roster. Certainly wind up always having some holes to fill. And even as I said, I mean, the one thing is that even if you feel kind of comfortable, especially on the defensive side, right, you can always use depth, and especially some of those depth players can be standouts at special teams. That would be huge. That would be huge for the Giants, especially if you get them for some later round draft picks, and if you want to get them and sign them, maybe keeping them for a few years or so, that would be huge. So, something to think about. Certainly something to think about. Then we're seeing this here, of course. Once again, hey, when you as bad as the Giants were last season, right? Right. A lot of people think you have obviously a bottom 5 roster, right? And this article here I'm about to go over is no different. Thinking the Giants have a bottom 5 roster. Now, do they have a bottom 5 roster? Or do they just have maybe bad coaching? Do they have some bad luck with injuries? Right. So from SI.com. Do the Giants really have a bottom 5 roster? One national media outlet doesn't approve of the Giants' roster changes for one specific reason, which probably doesn't justify ranking them among the bottom 5. Despite spending over $300 million in free agency this offseason and adding what appears to be another strong draft class, the Giants' roster still isn't getting any love from one national outlet. In his analysis of the 5 worst rosters in the NFL, Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox ranks the Giants 4th worst, putting Big Blue ahead of only the Browns, the Saints, and the Titans, but just behind the Panthers. So the Panthers, according to whoever Christopher Knox is, according to him, the Panthers have a better roster than the Giants. Ultimately, this analysis came down to one position on the Giants: quarterback. Though the Giants quarterback room looks much better on paper than it did a year ago, thanks in part to the promise of rookie Jackson Dart, there's still concerns about the projected starter Russell Wilson and backup Jameis Winston. Though the Giants quarterback room looks has the problem is that Dart isn't viewed as a pro-ready prospect. And the veteran quarterback duo of Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson leaves plenty to be desired, Knox said. Winston remains turnover prone. Well, he did a pretty good job of protecting the ball with the Steelers last year. So I'm not exactly sure. And then maybe turnover prone if he gets hit a lot, maybe. But let's see. Dart is in a pro-ready quarterback right now, nor should he be expected to perform like one just a couple of weeks after being drafted to sit behind Wilson and Winston. While the Giants haven't formally outlined a quarterback plan, the thought is that Dart will sit for a while, if not the entire season, so he can fully immerse himself in the offense and be ready to hit the ground running once he demonstrated that he's mastered the system. Now, it's not an easy system. I don't think many people would argue about Winston's point. He's been turnover prone his entire NFL career. Oh, Jameis Winston. Not Wilson, but Winston, yeah. Oh, yeah, Winston, Jameis Winston, yeah. He'll throw you into a game and he'll throw you out of a game. But he has enough experience to say he is just one who is a quarterback. Still, Winston, who, like Dart, was a first-round draft pick, brings value to the young rookie's development. I don't understand or agree with Knox's point about Winston. While I don't think he played exceptional football by any stretch of the word, I strongly disagree with saying that he floundered. Wilson played average football for most of the season when he was available in 2024, outside of one game against the Bengals. The game against the Chiefs wasn't pretty, but he operated under constant duress in the backfield and performed well for a quarterback who's expected to be average. Wilson's stats weren't gaudy, maybe leading people to believe that Wilson was struggling more down the stretch. Context also matters. The Steelers had a bottom 10 offensive line and a run game that was happy if it walked away with a 4-yard per carry average in a game. Their top 4 pass catchers were a tight end, a wide receiver, and 2 running backs, which is not going to get the job done. As someone who has been very critical of the Giants in recent years, I think the addition of Wilson helps elevate the floor because it finally gives the Giants an average quarterback play. Even outside the quarterback question, the Giants roster is no longer a bottom 5 roster in the NFL due to the upgrades this team has made over the aforementioned back-to-back strong off seasons. And I said, and their starters on defense is to me, is top 10. Giants' offensive line will be average to above average if the starting 5 can they stay healthy, especially if some of the moves on the interior work out. In the pass catching group, the Giants have a guy in Malik Neighbors who is coming off a 1,200-yard season despite abysmal quarterback play. They also have a complimentary outside receiver in Darius Slayton, a chain mover and slot receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson, and a promising rookie tight end in Theo Johnson. Defensively, there's a strong argument to be made that the Giants might just have the best pass rush in the NFL. I mean, if not, top 5. The defensive front has been heavily invested in and should dominate the line of scrimmage in 2025 if we can stay healthy. Defensive lineman Dexter Lawrence is the best nose tackle on the planet. And he'll have rookie Darius Alexander next to him full-time at some point. Giants also have an elite edge rush group with Burns, Kayvon, and Abdul Carter. Secondary is a bit of a wild card regarding how new additions like Adebo and Holland will mesh with the rest of the unit. Still, in an on-paper conversation, that's a strong secondary. that should be considered a potential top 10 secondary. Could be. And it's young, too. And we got him for like 3 more years. That's, possibly Banks for 3 years. But anyway, that said, the Giants need to continue to add depth in some areas. And the roster still has valid question marks, absolutely, that will hopefully be answered throughout the spring and the summer. But to suggest it's a bottom 5 roster, yeah, that's about as obvious a stretch as you'll find. So, I mean, once again, this guy, Christopher Knox or whatever his name is, he thinks the Giants. I don't. I mean, once again, it's kind of the same thing. Like when the Giants had Daniel Jones here, we were never going to get any love from anybody, right? As long as we had Daniel Jones in there, that just was not happening, right? And we always had the offensive line problems. We gotta prove that we got the offensive line. We gotta prove we got the quarterback, right? Then then things just some people start looking at us as maybe not a bottom tier roster, but until you prove them otherwise, it is what it is. But I said, I don't think to me this. I certainly don't think the Giants have a bottom 5 roster. That's crazy. Now, one thing, the Giants, how much were the Giants fined in 2024? Now, of course, they, just like with every team gets their fines and all that and everything. But the Giants were remarkably well-behaved, shall we say. I mean, regardless. Yeah, every week, for the most part, you're going to get somebody who gets fined or this, that, or the other thing. But, I'll tell you what, the Giants were didn't do too bad. Didn't do too bad at all. Reviewing the Giants' 2024 fines totals. How badly did the NFL fine the Giants players last season? Well, as I said, was not too bad. Despite averaging 6.6 penalties per game in 2024, which tied them for the 9th most penalized team in the league, New York Giants weren't hit as hard regarding fines resulting from penalties that were either called or not called. Based on data provided by Spot Track, just 11 members of the 2024 Giant team drew fines by the league, totaling $96,822. That total represents less than 1% of the $12,822,699 estimated fines the league collected last season. Less than 1%. Only one Giant player, outside linebacker Kayvon Thibodeau, drew multiple fines in different weeks, making him the most heavily fined member of the team last season. Kayvon was fined $16,883 in Week 13 for a late hit, and then $16,883 for roughing the passer in Week 18 for a total of $33,766 in fines. The NFL and the NFL Players Association collaborate to determine fine amounts, the current schedule of which can be found. Fines are increased if a violator incurs multiple infractions for the same penalty. Not all fines assessed were necessarily flagged during the game, though. NFL officials review every game to determine if the assigned game officials missed a finable infraction. So here's a look at all the fines handed out by the league to the Giant players in 2024. And once again, it was not Dory Jackson for hip drop tackle, Week 1, right? Or actually, we had 2 fines in Week 1, and then the rest 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the rest of the season we only had 9 fines. So, but Week 1, Dory Jackson had a hip drop tackle, and Darius Muasau had a hip drop tackle. Week 1. Malik Neighbors had an obscene gesture in Week 3, which he got fined for. Toman Fox got hit for roughing the passer In week 7, DJ Davidson got fined. It doesn't say what for. In week 9, Micah McFadden for a hip drop tackle. He was fined in week 9. Then, then week 10, Emir Smith-Marset for fighting. He got fined $5,861. Then the last one, from week 11 to week 18, we only had 4. Right? Kayvon for a late hit, week 13. Trey Hawkins III for a low block in week 14. Daniel Bellinger for a chop block in week 17. And finally, the last one, roughing the passer, Kayvon Thibodeau, week 18. But I mean, I said, all in all, I mean, the Giants did a very, very good job. Okay. Yeah, less than 1%. You go all season and, only your team comes up with basically less than $100,000 in fines and winds up being, less than 1% of all the fines dished out. Yeah. So that's not too bad. That's pretty impressive. That shows that, the guys are, I guess, well coached, although it doesn't show it on the field, but also they go in there with the right mindset, right? Because, if you got a bad mindset, right, penalties happen, right? So Giants did a very, very good job last year. Very, very good job. So, all right, guys, it's 1 hour and 32 minutes. Whoever spent any time listening to me live, thank you. Or if anybody's going to spend any time watching the replay, this, once again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means the world to me. As always, you guys stay safe out there and go Giants! Woo! Oh, yeah.